Welcome to our in-depth exploration of one of the Bible's most thought-provoking books, Job. Today, we're diving into the first chapter of this enlightening text, traditionally ascribed to the wisdom literature of the Bible. We'll take a close look at Job, a man described as blameless and upright, who faces unimaginable trials and tests of his faith. As we walk through each verse of Job chapter 1, we'll uncover the depth of its timeless wisdom and how it speaks to us about faith, suffering, and divine justice. We shall start by reading the chapter, then follow with an analysis of the reading. Verses 1 to 5. In the land of Uz there lived a man whose name was Job. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen and 500 donkeys, and had a large number of servants. He was the greatest man among all the people of the East. His sons used to hold feasts in their homes on their birthdays, and they would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. When a period of feasting had run its course, Job would make arrangements for them to be purified. Early in the morning he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, "Perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." This was Job's regular custom. Verses 6 to 12. One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. Does Job fear God for nothing?" Satan replied, "Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." The Lord said to Satan, "Very well, then, everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger." Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. Verse 13 to 19. One day when Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabaeans attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, yet another messenger came and said, "Your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them and they are dead, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." Verses 20 to 22. At this, Job got up and tore his robe and shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground in worship and said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away, may the name of the Lord be praised." In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. Now let's analyze this reading. The analysis will be broken into 4 parts. Part 1. Job's character and prosperity, verses 1 to 5. Verse 1 introduces us to the main character, Job, a man from the land of Uz. The author provides a glowing moral and spiritual appraisal of Job. He's described as blameless, upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. In this context, blameless does not mean sinless, but rather refers to a person of integrity. The next few verses depict Job's prosperity, which serves to underline his societal standing. He's portrayed as a wealthy man, with 7 sons and 3 daughters, a significant number of livestock, sheep, camels, oxen, donkeys, and a large retinue of servants. The text emphasizes that Job was the greatest man among all the people of the East. Verses 4 and 5 introduce us to the pious practices within Job's family. Job's sons would hold feasts on their birthdays, inviting their sisters. After the feasting, Job, out of his devout nature, would offer burnt offerings for each of his children, thinking they might have unknowingly sinned during their celebrations. The custom indicates Job's dedication to ensure not just his righteousness, but also his children's righteousness. This section sets the stage for the unfolding drama, showcasing the significant stakes involved. We are presented with an image of an ideal man in an ideal situation, underlining the intensity of the trials to come. Part 2. Heavenly Scene and the Challenge, verses 6 to 12. In this section, the narrative shifts from the earthly realm to the heavenly one. It's a day when the sons of God present themselves before the Lord, and Satan, the adversary, is among them. The presence of Satan among God's court may seem strange, but it's important to note that the word Satan in this context means adversary or accuser, and his role here is more of a prosecutor in God's court rather than the embodiment of all evil as depicted in later Christian texts. God initiates a dialogue with Satan, asking about his activities. Satan reports that he's been roaming the earth. God then draws Satan's attention to Job's exceptional righteousness, presenting him as a counterargument to Satan's cynical view of humanity. Satan challenges God's endorsement of Job's piety by arguing that Job is only pious because God has blessed him abundantly. Satan contends that if Job were to lose everything he has, he would certainly curse God. In essence, Satan accuses Job of being a mercenary, serving God only for the material benefits. God permits Satan to test Job's faith by taking away his possessions, but he places a restriction: Satan must spare Job's life. This section thus sets the stage for the central drama of the book, the testing of an innocent man's faith under extreme suffering. Part 3. The calamities befall Job, verses 13 to 19. This segment of the chapter begins with an account of a day when Job's sons and daughters were feasting in the house of the eldest brother. Job's idyllic world, as portrayed in the earlier verses, abruptly shatters as a series of calamities befall him, for messengers arrive in quick succession to deliver the terrible news. The first reports a Sabaeans' raid where they have stolen Job's oxen and donkeys and killed his servants. The second messenger brings the news of a fire from heaven that consumed all of Job's sheep and the servants tending them. The third messenger reports another raid, this time by Chaldeans who've taken away his camels and killed more servants. The worst news is saved for the last. The final messenger reports a catastrophic event where a powerful wind struck the 4 corners of the eldest son's house, causing it to collapse and kill all of Job's children inside. These verses dramatically depict the full extent of Job's loss, including his wealth, his servants, and most devastatingly, all his children. This swift and complete calamity underscores the severity of the trial that Job has to face and further emphasizes his innocence and undeserved suffering. Part 4, Job's initial response, verses 20 to 22. This section outlines Job's response to the horrendous calamities he faced. Despite the incredible loss and grief, Job's reaction is noteworthy. He mourns, as any person would. He tears his robe, shaves his head. These are traditional signs of mourning in ancient Near Eastern cultures. However, in his intense grief, Job doesn't curse God or challenge his justice, as Satan had anticipated. Instead, he falls to the ground in worship. He acknowledges God's sovereignty over life and possessions with his statement, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart." The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away, may the name of the Lord be praised. Job's words here are powerful and laden with profound humility and faith. He recognizes that everything he had came from God and hence, God has the right to take it away. Verse 22 summarizes Job's reaction, stating that despite everything, Job didn't sin or blame God for his misfortunes. This illustrates the depth of Job's faith and righteousness, setting up the premise for the dialogues and debates about suffering and divine justice that follow in the rest of the book. We've just navigated through the compelling narrative of Job 1, which sets the stage for the unfolding spiritual drama in the subsequent chapters. The chapter introduces us to Job's impeccable character and prosperous life, before shifting to a divine counsel where Job's faith becomes the subject of a heavenly wager. This leads to a cascade of calamities that obliterate Job's world. But in the face of devastating loss, Job displays remarkable faith and resilience, worshipping God despite his heart-rending circumstances. Join us as we continue this journey, delving deeper into the book of Job, probing the profound questions it raises, and seeking the wisdom it offers. Thank you for joining our exploration of Job 1. If you appreciated this video, please hit the like button and share it with others who might benefit from this study. For more insightful discussions on biblical texts and wisdom literature, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to receive notifications. We'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections on Job's story, so please leave us a comment below. And stay tuned for our next video where we'll continue our deep dive into the book of Job.